So what if somebody told you that the Earth is obviously flat, or that heavier than air vehicles can't possibly fly? We, of course, now call these airplanes and jets. Or that something so small you can't even see it with your naked eye couldn't possibly get anybody sick. We now call these bacteria, viruses, or just pathogens. There are multiple different things over the past hundreds of years that everybody knew and that were proven wrong. And so the fact that somebody tells you something, whether that person has MDs or PhDs after their name, or whether 5 or 6 of them are all doing it together, doesn't make it true. And the fact that lots of people say it doesn't make it true. So let's take a look at a couple of problems. There are actually multiple problems with information being released in the press and taught to physicians regarding vitamins and nutritional supplements. And then we're going to talk about the current research that appears to show that the group with prostate cancer that took vitamin E ended up with a 17% higher rate of prostate cancer. And we'll address that research. First of all, every time we hear about research, it's always the current research. So if somebody just told you the Earth is flat, luckily you're all smart enough to know that's not true. We know the Earth is not flat. What idiot said that? As a matter of fact, you might even find hundreds of different photographs from the space shuttle and from other astronauts and different rockets showing the curvature. That's because that's something that you know. Vitamins are still something that most of the public and most physicians don't really know very much about, and so they're always grasping to listen to the next thing that anybody has to say. You also don't realize how many hundreds, and in many cases thousands, of studies have already been done that show the benefits of what a current study seems to show is a problem. So you simply grasp for the current study. Vitamin E is even less understood than some of the others, and certainly physicians, the public, and registered dietitians are still being taught, especially the physicians and dietitians, are still being taught something which is a tremendous lie when it comes to nutrients, and that is that a well-balanced diet, if that's what you eat, will always give you adequate amounts of the necessary vitamins and minerals. This is being taught even though not a single comprehensive study has ever been published to show this is true, and many studies have shown that it is not true, but it's still being taught. For some reason, the current target of the pharmaceutical industry and nutritional naysayers, and of course some of the researchers, which in many cases are funded by the pharmaceutical industry, is vitamin E. And that's really too bad, because this nutrient is a complex of analogs. Vitamin E, by definition of the Food and Drug Administration, is one single molecule. Sort of. That molecule is D-alpha-tocopherol. The reason I said sort of is because when the pharmaceutical companies, when vitamin E was first discovered a long time ago, found that they weren't able to make D-alpha-tocopherol in the laboratory, that only nature could make it, they allowed the pharmaceutical companies, the FDA allowed them, to call the mirror image, or basically the exact opposite molecule, the left-handed molecule, they allowed them to call it vitamin E. So instead of being D-alpha-tocopherol, it has to be labeled as a left-handed molecule, so it's DL for levo, or left-handed, DL-alpha-tocopherol. They let them call that vitamin E. Then they went further, and they allowed them, all the manufacturers, to take the vitamin E, esterify it, which is a process that makes it so that it is no longer an antioxidant, and still call it vitamin E. So not only is DL, synthetic alpha-tocopherol, of vitamin E, but DL-alpha-tocopheryl, I know they sound the same. OL is the natural, YL is the esterified, no longer an antioxidant form. That can also be called vitamin E. And because the FDA has allowed this, a lot of the research being done on vitamin E is not done on what nature gives us, and therefore doesn't show the benefits that the substance that nature gives us as a protective agent for the body would otherwise show. And that's really too bad, because in reality, if you look at vitamin E in an educated manner instead of an FDA manner, vitamin E has either 4 or 8 parts. The 4 parts would be D-alpha, D-beta, D-delta, and D-gamma tocopherol, ending in OL. And then there's another 4 parts which are sort of part of the vitamin E complex. They can be looked at separately. And that's D-alpha, beta, delta, and gamma tocotrienol. They exist separately in nature. The tocotrienols and the tocopherols are rarely together because they compete for the receptor sites in the body. So you don't even want to take them together in a supplement. You take one at breakfast and one at dinner. So what happens if you study a vitamin the way we study drugs? We throw everybody off. Drugs don't exist in nature. Drugs are manufactured to do a specific thing. Of course, they have side effects and do things that the manufacturer didn't want them to do, because they can't help that because they would normally not be in the body. But nonetheless, they were manufactured to do a specific thing, and so you only study that drug all by itself. And that's appropriate because you want to know what that drug is going to do. The fact that it may have 25 dozen different side effects if the person taking it is also taking 2 other drugs doesn't usually even get studied, which is why we have so many people that die of drug interactions. But vitamins are different. Vitamins do belong in your body. Vitamins are in our food. Minerals are in our food. And therefore, if a specific vitamin, which would normally be in a type of plant that also has some other vitamins in it or some minerals in it, gets studied without those other vitamins or those other minerals, lo and behold, it doesn't do what Mother Nature, or God, if that's your belief system, would want it to do and designed it to do. But they are studying them that way. They're studying vitamins the way they're studying drugs. So even though the vitamin would always have certain other things around it, such as the vitamin E would be a complex of D-alpha, D-beta, D-delta, and D-gamma tocopherol, and by the way, in nature, there is more of the gamma tocopherol than there is of the alpha, and so if you had them both together, there should be more gamma than there is alpha. That's the reason I only use one particular product in my practice called Unique E, because it leaves it alone the way it comes out of nature. And so when they study vitamin E, and the FDA allows them to call an esterified synthetic product, which was what was recently used in a prostate cancer study, they allow them to call that vitamin E, what they're doing is they're seeing whether a substance that nature cannot manufacture will help reduce the risk of prostate cancer. Well, wait a minute. They just turned vitamin E into a drug. They're now studying a drug. They're studying something which the FDA allows them to call vitamin E, but which in fact, really, in a perfect world, I know we're not in one, shouldn't be able to be allowed to be called vitamin E because vitamins always exist in nature, and the form of vitamin E that was used in this prostate study cannot be found in nature, and therefore really it was more like a drug. And the fact that we have lots and lots and lots of other studies that have been done and published proving that the proper forms of vitamin E greatly reduce risks of numerous cancers and numerous cardiovascular diseases. That sort of gets thrown to the wayside because news is what's going to get you to tune in at 11 or read the paper. And so if the headline were to say, we've got overwhelming research showing that natural source vitamin E with adequate amount of gamma and preferably with all 4 types together is phenomenal in its ability to reduce all sorts of different types of cancers, and then went on to list all the different cancers that vitamin E has been shown to help. And then, in small type at the bottom said, somehow or other, some current researchers have been able to use a synthetic form in the wrong complex or no complex, and they got it to make people not live as long with cancer. You wouldn't want to read the article. You just got all the information from the title, so it doesn't get done that way. I recently spoke to the owner of AC Grace, which is a company that makes Unique E, because they immediately pull every research study and look at them to see what's going on. And he called up somebody who's basically got a reputation to be either the or one of the world experts in vitamin E, is a PhD named Andreas Pappas. And for people that really want to know about vitamin E, they should pick up a copy of his book. I think it's called The Vitamin E Factor. You can find it on Amazon. Apparently, from what Pappas told AC Grace, he was asked about some questions when they were setting this research up. And they wanted to know his opinion because he's a world expert. And what he told AC Grace was that I told him that it's gamma that's doing most of the work with cancer, that you should have them together or a higher gamma than alpha, and it has to be the natural. And they disregarded everything that he said and continued to do what they wanted to do because obviously they weren't trying to show that it helps They were trying to show that it doesn't, and of course they managed to show that the improper form of a synthetic E doesn't help. So what? Who cares?